Well, hello there, everyone. Hopefully, you're doing outstanding. Today is Thursday, February the 9th, year 2023. And yep, got that background behind me, which means I'm back in South Florida from the country of Panama. Had a great time down there. Extremely busy every single day, though. Sometimes walking on the beach, getting tours of two different areas. Um, what else was it? I'm forgetting a lot of stuff. Oh, yeah, I'll fill you in on the last couple of days in a different video. I'm gonna share with you for what some people was an adventure on an airplane, where I know one person in particular, they lost control of their bodily functions. And yes, that was not me, but it was on the airplane I was on. Okay? You want to hear about that, right? Stick around. So, my little usual disclaimer, because I talk about financial stuff. Sometimes I slip something in. So, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a multimillionaire because of my investing, and I teach others how to become a multimillionaire. Okay, so my airplane adventure. All right. So we were to fly out of Panama City, Panama, yesterday evening. The flight was scheduled to leave at like 6:20 something in the evening. They're on same time as East Coast time, Eastern Standard Time. They do not their time zones do not change during the course of a year. So in the United States, most states switch times. In the spring and the fall, spring forward, fall back. Panama, right now it matches up with East Coast time, and they stay like that all year long. So anyway, I was to fly out about that time. So we load on the plane normal time, and we start doing normal stuff, getting off the runway, and we go up into the air. And I wasn't keeping track of time, but roughly 15 to 20 minutes into the flight, I would assume we are fairly high up by then. I don't know if we're at max elevation, but we're pretty high up by then. The captain came across the radio and made an announcement and said that he is going to be returning to Panama. He said that upon his takeoff, they struck a bird and they need to go back and land back in Panama so the ground crew can look the plane over to make sure that no damage was done. Okay. I think for probably a lot of people in the plane, some people probably been through this before, others. I've never been through a pilot saying he has to return to where he took off from. And you figure if we're 15, 20 minutes up, he announced it before he started his big circle, to turn around. And then that 15, 20 minutes back, and then the taxiing time to get back to the runway and stuff, that's probably roughly an hour of the flight gone. And now you're back on the ground where you started from an hour later, at least. So we're proceeding down, we're dropping down elevation. And I was watching, I had a window seat. I was watching, and it just seems like we got lower quicker and flew at a lower elevation for a longer period of time. Because a lot of times when you're coming down, it's like you're coming down and maybe you level off some, then you land. But this time it seems like we came down faster back here and then leveled off, not that high above the water or the ground. It just seems like, from my perspective, okay, as someone sitting on that plane. So he comes in to land, and as I do most times, unless I'm deeply engrossed in a book, I'm still old school, I read books, sometimes ebooks on planes. As he's coming into land, I usually watch out the window and I try to anticipate the touchdown, because you always feel a little dunk, when they touch down. And once they touch down, the flaps come up and you start slowing down. And it's always like, well, you're successfully back on the ground. All right, so this time as I was watching mentally, I was thinking, any split second now we're going to touch. Like we were that close from my eyes looking out to touching the ground. I don't know if that was inches, a foot or two or three or four. I don't know how close we were, but we were really close. When all of a sudden I first hear it, then I feel it. The motors kick in and the acceleration starts. We never hit the ground and we start going up, and then it's like, what are we doing? Because now we're just cruising above the ground, very low, getting faster, and then we get lift and we start taking back off at a steep climb. It just seemed like it was steeper than a normal climb. Okay, and everybody, you can tell, is getting a little rattled by now on the plane. It's like, just people are getting a little antsy, and I'm just my normal, you know, what's going on here? When I know it's something I can't control, I don't let any emotions get in my way. Because I may need to react to something that I can't control. You just don't know. So if I can't control it, I'll ride it out and see what happens. And obviously I wrote it out and it worked out successfully, right? So anyway, we get back to elevation again, and the co-pilot comes on the radio, and he seemed a little out of breath, a little excited. And he said something to the effect was that the captain made the decision not to land, and now he's back in the air and he's going to fly to Miami. And it's just like, something happened. Something happened. And then they don't make announcement again for a while. And it's dark outside. Okay, it's very dark. But somewhere in there, after we're back getting elevation again, we turned again. And they didn't tell us this until we were starting to come down. And they said, once again, we are returning to Panama City to land again. And this is where people really were like, whoa, what's going on here? People were getting a little, you could just feel it. And we did turn around a second time and came down. And then it's like, I'm even starting to think, what's going to happen here? Are we going to land? Or is there something funky going on up there? But that time we come down and we land. And we taxi on in, but we don't go right up to the runway. We taxi in close and we come to a stop. And immediately, once he stops, people start standing up and opening up the overhead bins and start pulling suitcases out. And it's like, we're not parked yet. I'm just thinking, we're not parked yet. If this plane starts nudging forward, some of these people might fall or something. And then they make an announcement, please take your seats. We still need to move the plane. We're not parked yet, or whatever they said. But then we go up there and we park. And we sit. And we sit. And we sit. And at some point, people were standing up by this time, more people were standing up too. At some point, some guy came pushing back from the front. He had a buddy back, a row or two behind me. He came pushing back through the aisle to get to his buddy so I could hear the conversation. And he said something that was interesting in a way. And I'll say it in a kind way. I'll try to say it on here. He said somebody up front there pooped their pants. And that was all, and by that time I was like, oh, I am smelling something. So then we sat on the plane for a while longer. Then we go to get off the plane, and I'm back in row 24, and this happened up, I don't know, row 5, 6, 7, 8. It wasn't first class, it was just behind first class. They had those white, kind of like in the doctor's office, those white cloths on the aisle seat and in the aisleway, and a stewardess was there telling everybody who walked up, step over top, step over top, step over top. So obviously someone lost control of their bowels, their bodily functions, because they must have been scared. I can understand it. I'm not making fun of this person. I don't know who this person is. I have no clue who they are. I'm not making fun of them. I'm really not. I understand fear. I understand people getting scared. I was a cop for 20 years. I was in the military before that. I was in Panama for Operation Just Cause when 82nd Airborne came down and they took Noriega out. I understand. I've had guns pointed at me, knives pointed at me, punches thrown to me. I've been spit on, kicked, punched, whatever. I understand fear, but I understand you have to control that fear. All right, you gotta be a wolf, not a sheep. You gotta lead, not follow. That's but you can be a humble leader. But anyway, I'm digressing here, aren't I? But it was just interesting. So we go on to into the terminal, and the person there's different people there talking to us, and they tell us go to another gate, and we're going to be getting on another plane at 9:15-ish. And so we make our way down to that gate, and people are lined up there. And we were started to load the plane, so we were on the plane by 9:15. We did not take off till 9:45 to 10 p.m. My original flight was like 6:22, I think it was. So we didn't take off again until pushing 10 o'clock at night. So by the time and this was uneventful. So by the time we landed in Miami, it's 12:30, 12:40. And if you've flown any time in recent years, you know anytime you fly, depending on the airport and the time of day, you'll spend a lot of time on the ground taxiing to the terminal. So we make our way in, we disembark the airplane, we go into the terminal, we got to go show our passports, to get through customs, and we collect our suitcases, and we can go out. And then just to wrap the story up, we go out to the parking garage, and I knew I was in the Flamingo garage, and I knew I was on 1D. I parked by the sign 1D, 1 Delta. And when I go in from the level I was at in the terminal, walking in the garage, I'm on level 3. No big deal, just 2 levels down. I'll take an elevator. Elevators, out of order. I look at the steps. Yeah, they're disgusting. Disgusting. Don't move to Miami, Florida. It's disgusting. So we start walking down the parking garage. And they got elevators on the other side. Out of order. And we're still on the 3 level, but when we walk down, so we walk down again. Elevators, out of order. Walk down again. Elevators, out of order. So all the elevators are out of order. So it's not just 3, 2, 1. It's like 3, 3.5, 3.25, 3, 2, 2, whatever, to get down. But we made our way on down and got down to 1 and got our bags in our car, and the car started, and we left and started driving. And I got to tell you, that was a long drive. I was tempted, man, just to get a hotel, but it's like, I knew I just spent a ton of money. It seems like less money than I was expecting. It was still a lot of money on that trip to Panama. And it's like, I don't want to stay in another hotel. I want to get home. But there was a long stretch, not 100 miles, but I'm like 3 hours away from Miami airport. But there was a long stretch, I'll say 50 to 75 miles. It just seemed like where there was those traffic barrels on the left-hand side of the lane. And it was dark, it was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And just watching those barrels and the reflectors in the road and stuff, I know what it's doing is hypnotic, and I know that. But I was doing my best to stay awake and to keep myself woke and put the temperature colder, slow my speed down, speed my speed up, put the radio on, change the song, just stay awake. We came to a rest area, and we got off onto that rest area, and it was like 2 miles of driving to get to the rest area. I've never been to a rest area like that. But anyway, get woken up again in there better, and then we made it home. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to drive when you're that sleepy. So I'm glad I'm here today to talk to you. So, but we made it back. And they'll never tell us what happened to that plane. If I had to guess, it had to be something with one of the wheels. Maybe one of the wheels didn't come down. Maybe. I don't know. Everything's computerized, so in the old days, maybe he was coming down the land and maybe he realized there's not enough runway left for him to come to a stop, so he pulled up, or maybe the runway wasn't clear. Maybe another airplane was down there and he had to pull up fast, So I don't know. I don't know what happened, and I never will know. I do know I don't really like flying anymore, not just from this experience. And the flying aspect is usually the best part. What I don't like is the whole airport experience. Ever since 9/11 changed it. And we should have changed before 9/11 because we were not a safe country how we did things. We still aren't safe, by and large. All around this country, we're not safe. Infrastructure is not safe. But it's a hassle now, and I got it down. I flew a lot last year. I've flown this year. The year before. I don't know. I've flown a lot of times over the years. I've gotten the process down, take my belt off, take my shoes off, take everything in my pockets. I remember to take my Fitbit off. Sometimes I forget before. Now I usually remember to take it off. But it's just a hassle, And then in Panama, you got to do it twice. You got to go through the main security line and do the whole thing there where they, your carry-on bag, they're checking that. You take everything out of your pockets, your shoes, your belt, your pockets, everything. And then you get all dressed back up, put everything away. But then at your individual gate, at every individual gate, at least the ones that I've flown on flying back to the United States, when you go into that little seating area for the gate, you have to go through security right there again a second time. I guess they want to make sure, you didn't go in the store and buy something that's, I don't know, or do something, I don't know. But they're checking twice, and it's a little bit of a pain. I mean, I understand why they got to do it. Some idiots over there decided to hijack airplanes and want to kill us. So a few idiots change it for the rest of the world. It's how it always works. A few bad criminals change it for the good people. A few bad apples spoil the whole bunch of apples. So to get this back to come to a conclusion, take care of your circle around you. All right? Don't get too caught up with all these YouTubers out there who are showing you their Lamborghinis and showing you their muscles and showing you their mansion and doing this and doing that. Don't get caught up in you get 1 rental, 2 rental, 5 rentals, 10 rentals, and now you're just like, you got to get more, you got to get more. You want to get 100, you want to get 200, you want to get 300. Don't do it. I'm cautioning you, don't do it. Keep control of your emotions. Keep control of yourself. All right? So, because it's easy to lose. I've lost control of myself different times. It's easy to. But when you start buying rental property, don't get too over eager about doing this, okay? One at a time. Take your time. Recheck yourself after you get 1 or 2. Recheck your finances. Make sure you still got reserves. I'm still digging out of my hole from not having enough reserve because I've had some big repairs here of late. I still owe my property manager about $20K on a rehab, and until I sell a house, I just don't have that money to pay. I did just upload money for a new furnace, $3,000, because it's winter time and needed a new furnace, and I could have repaired it for 900, 700, 800, 900, but they said the furnace was like 25 years old or something, so you could repair it and it might not last out the winter. Maybe it will last a couple more years, or just buy a new one. So I bought a new one, it's $3,000. That's another $3,000. So I want to caution you, learn from my mistakes. There are ones in several of my mastermind group who have grown a little too fast as well. Learn from their mistakes. I won't mention them. But if you think you have enough reserves, get more. All right? Get more. Because you can't have too much in reserves. All right? And make sure you survive all forms of travel. It's more dangerous to ride in a car than it is to fly in an airplane. Okay? So don't let my experience in an airplane unnerve you at all. So anyway, enough of that. I will come back tomorrow or the next day probably, and I'm going to give you a more in-depth talk on my experience in Panama and exactly what I did so I can become legal to reside in that country. And I did it. I was successful. I will tell you that. I was successful, and it tired me out. So with that being said, have a great day. Maskey's signing out.